Brady Bunch was a TV show. I didn't know what that was.
What?
I've heard it. Heard of
Wow.
it.
Fantastic.
Oh.
That was like when Robbie
Come on, man.
said,
Come on.
what's a VHS? What do you mean?
I've never heard of Brady Bunch either.
Here we go. Okay.
Was that you, Luke?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Go.
Well, granted, that was on the
17,
oldies. That was like the reruns at Nick at Night when we were kids.
Yeah, but it's still a great show.
Yeah, well, nobody watches TV anymore.
Go
Any
YouTube.
of us are doing that, Luke.
Sorry, it's something I heard from a
Escalated
comedian.
quickly.
There you go.
It's something I heard from a
Choices
comedian.
in life.
He has a sniper rifle in his room. So.
It's not, Judah, it's not real. Judah, it's not real.
All right. Jacob, you want to spend a couple minutes here asking for prayer and then leading us in prayer?
Does anybody have any prayer requests? Yes, no? Any prayer
I don't have any.
Oh, Judah's brother's in town. He's staying with us, and he's getting a biopsy done tomorrow to get a piece of his liver scanned to hopefully become a successful donor for my aunt.
Oh, cool.
Ooh.
Praise for that.
Awesome. For sure.
Is Judah's brother a twin?
No.
Yeah,
No.
that's a great question. I have
There's
to
only
know
one
now.
of me, baby.
Because then we'll have like 3 Judahs within like the 20-mile range.
That was just too many.
Fantastic.
Is that it? Anybody else? We get this shindig started. All right. We'll pray and get started. Lord, thank you for this time together. We pray for Judah's brother's biopsy tomorrow. Pray that he can be a successful donor for Logan's aunt. We thank you for this time together and the technology that allows us to come together, even if we're far apart from one another. Pray for Pastor Chad as he delivers the message tonight, and we pray that it would impact everybody here. Amen.
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 Amen. All right, everybody. Get something like pen and paper or your phone or an iPad, anything that you love to take notes on, because this is a workshop more than a message. This is the second week in a row we are trying this out all on Zoom with you guys. And this is not just me on a stage giving you guys a talk and you listen and you go talk in groups. This is a workshop, so you work with me through the message. And I think this will be super relevant to you guys today. We're talking about, well, we're titling this talk, this workshop, Faith Rated M for Mature. We are seeing 64% of American youth, your guys' age, specifically more toward 18 years old, leaving the church, leaving the Christian life as of a 2019 study. And I think it's because, you know, and tell me if I'm wrong, I think that a lot of students are overwhelmed to stay disciplined and grow into a world-changing disciple of Jesus once you're ready to leave high school, and you start to realize how many things in life that you weren't really taught in middle school or high school that you have to figure out on your own. You have to start making decisions on. So we end up just giving up the Christian life altogether, or we try to make it just another category in our life, where really everything in your life, every category needs to fall under your relationship with Jesus. Everything you do, every relationship you have has to be informed by your relationship with Jesus. So Jesus and church and the whole Christian life is not just something you check off for the week, like going to the dentist or going to get your groceries, or right now getting Instacart delivered to your house, right? Like it's not just a something you check off. Jesus invites us to follow him, just like the original disciples. And so he's asking us to level up and do that. And so I'm going to give some step-by-step tools today to level up and follow Jesus in a fresh way and not be part of that 64%. But it's going to require knowing your purpose. Edwin, this is kind of the talk we were going to have a couple weeks ago after the Unaltered tour. All right? So knowing your purpose, and 2, having a plan. So we're going to talk about 2 P's today. First, we will start with purpose. And let me open up my share screen for you guys. And I'm going to go through my slides. Can you see this opening up?
Yep.
Cool beans. So level up. There we go. That's the series we're in right now, week 2. Faith rated M for mature. We're starting with the first P of the 2, purpose. Okay. Here's the first time already that you're going to work with me. Your purpose is foggy until you have any guesses?
Jesus.
Wow.
Jesus.
Jesus. Anybody else? Bueller. Yeah, if you don't know the Brady Bunch, you don't know Ferris Bueller's Day Off, do you? Oh, goodness.
I've seen that.
Oh, you have? Oh, thank goodness. Finally, somebody's cultured. Just kidding.
I don't think that's the problem.
All right, your purpose is foggy until you have, yes, Jesus, but here's what you're writing down with this. Union with God. So you don't have Jesus, right? Like you don't have Jesus like you have a pencil in your hand. You have union with God. You have a relationship. You have a pursuit of relationship. You have union with God. A lot of people grow up and they find that they find pleasure in some sort of work that they do. But so many people end up having career shifts later on because, oh, that was fun for a while, but I need something new, right? So needing something new isn't a constant in your life. And therefore, when we know God is a constant, we know that union with God is better than any other kind of, major in college or career choice we could choose to pursue. Because regardless of whatever work you're doing, whatever job you hold, title you hold, degree you hold, your union with God is constant, right? People need to know that, especially right now when things are haywire, when jobs are being lost, when we don't know if some of these jobs will ever come back or how they'll look after this whole virus. So first and foremost, you got to go to the foundation. Your purpose is going to be foggy, regardless of who you are, regardless of how much you're passionate about the sport you play or career that you have or whatever else. You've got to have union with God. For an example, we're going to walk through a little bit of a podcast that John Mark Comer was on. And we're going to talk about his book that he wrote, which is perfect for you guys right now in this time. It's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, How to Stay Emotionally Healthy and Spiritually Alive in the Chaos of the Modern World. John Mark Comer is a pastor in Portland, Oregon. He started with a very grassroots organic ministry. And then it just kind of blew up and he ended up having somewhat of a mega church out there. And that was for a while the indicator that his ministry and his work was successful. But he ends up writing this book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, because his life was so hurried. and he ended up experiencing burnout. And he goes through it on this podcast. So I am just showing you the book here and the podcast title so that you can look these up if you'd like to get, if you'd like to listen to this podcast, if you'd like to get the book and go through this. But we'll go through some of the content here. So a lot of you guys here are younger. Just one at a time, could you tell me what grade you're about to go into? Luke? Going into 9th?
9th.
Okay. Michaela, going into 10th, right? Michaela Trupo, you going into 10th, I think? Is that right?
Yeah.
Cool. Edwin, you're going into
11th.
year?
Yeah, 11th.
11th grade. Cameron, you're going into Cameron, Lincoln, Daniela, Ethan, you all going into 8th?
9.
Ethan's
Ninth.
going into 9th.
We're all freshmen.
We're all going to be freshmen next year.
Oh, that's right. You guys are all going to be freshmen. And then Cameron Feist, you're going to be in 7th.
Yep.
Cool. So many of you guys are younger in here, but this definitely applies to you. It actually helps you get a little bit ahead of the game. So I'm glad you guys are here. And our lazy upperclassmen will have to watch the recording because I'll shove it into their inbox because they need this too. Okay, so what ends up happening is, even though you guys are younger, John Mark Comer shares the story of being on a trajectory, going into his college age years and his 20s, and he felt like he was on this upward trajectory with a healthy, vibrant sense of God's witness in his life, or his union with God. So he felt like he was becoming more like Christ, and eventually felt like he hit this plateau, and then he started to regress. And he was a pastor leading many people on staff in what, like I said, was seemingly a very thriving ministry in Portland, Oregon. He says this on the podcast, and then I began to realize, okay, there's something about the way that I'm following Jesus that is not working, because I'm not becoming more like Jesus anymore. Somehow I swallowed the lie that take up your cross as a pastor means sacrifice your emotional health on the altar of church planting. And so maybe some of you, one of you in here is thinking about going into full-time ministry like that. You need to know this guy's story and to be careful of that, because it's very easy to think, oh, I'm working for God, and he's going to be so proud of me. And that message that I just spoke just killed, and so many people are going to be impacted by it. And you're going to burn out thinking you're giving and giving and giving, and you're never, ever filling back up. Okay, but for most of you guys in here, perhaps you're not going to go into full-time ministry like this guy, but like I said earlier, it still applies that you're going to try and possibly give of yourself to some sort of career or major, or, you know, you're going to try and define yourself somewhere and give of yourself and possibly burn out. But for his story, he then realized that his church was full of people, shocker, just like him and his walk. People who grew really fast at a young age, hit a plateau, and then started regressing. Felt like they looked like Jesus less and less, and they were less loving and less joyful and less at ease and less present. And so I think something goes wrong for those hitting the college age years. And so we got to be, we've got to understand this before we get there, right? We can become consumed with doing for rather than being with. We put doing for over being with. Okay. Does anyone feel that? Does anyone feel like they are doing for? They're trying to succeed at something in school, whatever, for their parents, for a coach before all this was going down, for your guidance counselors, for your principles, for somebody that you're trying to date even, you know? I'm sure a lot of you guys feel that. Anyway. I feel like a lot of students this age can feel that. Maybe it's not any of you. But we got to talk about being with God. We've got to come back to union with God. That's the foundation of your purpose. Let's look at Mary and Martha. Luke 10, while they were traveling, he entered a village, that's Jesus, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. She had a sister named Mary who also sat at the Lord's feet and was listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by her many tasks, and she came up and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her to give me a hand. All right, we see this. We see Martha trying to do for God, trying to do for her household. And she's not really joyful in serving anybody here. She's freaking out, and she's mad, and she's irritated. But Mary is with God, and here's what God says. The Lord answered her, Martha, Martha, you're worried and upset about many things, but one thing is necessary. Again, this is your union with him, your relationship with him, your closeness, your witness with God. Mary has made the right choice, and it will not be taken away from her. That's your one true purpose right there. And it's like, whoa, that's way too simple. Yeah, you've got to have union with God. So let's look at this. Here's the next work you're going to do with me here. Your job is blank, and your work is blank. Your job is blank. Anybody got any guesses? Not Jesus.
But isn't that the standard Sunday school answer?
No, curveballs, baby.
Is it that your job is what you do and your work is something else?
How you do it? I don't know.
It's not how you do it, but yes, your job is what you do for sure. All right, here we go. Judah was halfway right. Job is what you do. It's going to be what you do for a living. It's what you're going to do to have your means. It's going to be what you do to make a living and care for your household. Your work is where you are. So that's what we see here with Mary. That's what we see with Mary. She is with God. And so even with God, your work is to be with him. Your work is to be, here's the next one. Your work is to be a person of faith, hope, and love. Your family, one day your spouse, other students, coworkers, even God himself, as we see with Mary here. And he's going to be the source of where you learn and where you develop into a person of faith, hope, and love, to be that for others. That is your purpose. But we have a huge problem of hurry. Man, the first thing I ever heard when I came to Hope Christian Church, started working with students at Hope, I heard an 8th grade girl here, the first youth group I came to hang out at and check things out. And she just straight up said in a conversation that if you don't have your career track already planned out and you're working on it by 8th grade, if you don't have that going on, then you're already too late. And my jaw dropped. You can't know who you are in 8th grade. My goodness, like so many people don't know who they are at 26, right? Like, we just don't know yet. And there's this chapter skipping going on with people your age in this generation. And so you feel hurried, you feel rushed, right? And it's the reason that we're seeing about half of students right now in college at least one time switch their major. It's why we're seeing so many students go in undecided but feel like they have to go to college, which goes exactly with that whole you're doing for thing. Feel like I'm doing for my parents, doing this for people that expect this of me, right? So there's a problem with hurry. And here is something, do your best to draw this out on your pad. Here's something I bring to students when they ask, what in the world do I do with my life? What is my purpose supposed to be? How do I choose my major? How do I decide what I'm supposed to do with my life? So it's a 3-circle Venn diagram to get to the sweet spot. Try to unmute yourself and tell me if you have ever received one of those pamphlets or booklets or whatever you would call them that have like 218 questions in them that are supposed to help you figure out your top 8 career choices. Anybody been handed something?
Oh yeah, we had to do that in school. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just our generation?
One of mine was a tank driver.
The tank driver? No.
Tank driver. I don't know how it said that my job was to be a tank driver.
Yeah.
We need to go back on mute.
Michaela, did you ever get something like that that's supposed to help you?
Yeah. I had to do it this year.
What were your results?
It said I would be a teacher, but that's not what I want to do at all.
See, like none of these things work. I mean, it's clear. I had to do this in school and it never works. Everybody becomes something completely different or they change a bunch of times, even after that pamphlet that's supposed to help you. If it did work, we wouldn't have so many kids switching majors. We wouldn't have so many kids asking this question and freaking out of what I'm supposed to do with my life. So this makes it a lot easier. This circle is gifts, obviously. This circle, I have people write down what they feel they're really talented at and what they really enjoy and they feel like God has gifted them in. This is your story, your experience. I ask people to write down with this circle what their defining moments have been in their life, to go all the way back to their furthest memory, the good and the bad. What's some bad things that have even defined who you are? What are some good things? And how has that developed a passion to see that eradicated in our world? And so when you combine these two, you get your mission. And you can have that mission at First Watch, right? You can have that mission as a plumber. You can have that mission doing whatever. That mission can be involved in whatever you choose to do for money, for means. And so you find your sweet spot and it kind of helps take that all away. And anyway, the whole purpose, the purpose that we have, like I said, is union with God. And so when we have union with God, we're like, okay, whatever I do is going to be fine. You find your sweet spot between gifts, your story, and your mission, and you can do whatever you want and be fulfilled in life. Lead a successful life because you're close to God and you can choose whatever this is, right? And 3 things makes it a lot easier than 218 or whatever amount of questions. But you're being hurried right now. You feel hurried. I'm sure a lot of you through the process of school totally has changed this year. I don't know what you're feeling exactly right now. But that's what an 8th grader, like I said, was feeling when I first started a couple years ago. She felt like she was a failure if she didn't know what she was going to do with her life in 8th grade. And so we've got a problem with hurry. The host of this podcast I was talking about with John Mark Comer, the host asked, so where does hurry stack on the list of obstacles between us and becoming like the love of Jesus? I mean, there's so much stuff that you could tackle. Why this one? John Mark answered, so it wasn't even on my list when I started. And then by the end, it was at the top. I think a couple of things happened. You know, one was my experience with burnout. 2 was getting into Pete Scazzero's work in emotionally healthy spirituality, that 80% of loving well is being emotionally healthy. And so this pastor, this writer, he's got a gift of writing, he's got a gift of teaching. He figured that out. He figured out, whoa, burnout is no good for following Jesus. I am passionate about helping people not do that with their life anymore, or not experience that in their life. So his mission became writing that book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, right? So here it is. It's a simple statement that you can make after this Venn diagram for yourself. You don't have to do that right now, but now you know this diagram and you can write a simple sentence to help you with your next project that you want to work on for yourself, or even your ultimate purpose statement for your life. So he writes a book to teach about avoiding burnout and looking more like Jesus. And I'd say even further than that, a purpose statement for him looks like this: give spiritual formation and direction to people so they lead emotionally healthy lives, starting with the ruthless elimination of hurry. So he takes something, or God allows him to take something that was really, really unhealthy and bad in his life and was harming him, and turn it into something legendary, turn it into something that's going to help so many other people. And he's on mission for that. That's giving purpose to the work of God. So this is a kind of a practice that you guys can do, and this would be awesome to do. I wish I could do a practice just like this in middle school, early high school, rather than be told you could be. Mine said I would be a choreographer. I remember that specifically in 8th grade, that something told me that my highest career probability was a choreographer. And you have seen me dance, right, Michaela?
It's so bad.
She's like, okay. I used this quote as well in my last message, if you saw it at the end of the Secure series, but I want to bring it back. Donald Miller is one of my favorite guys to listen to. Super successful business guy. Wrote Blue Like Jazz. If you haven't seen the movie Blue Like Jazz, that's also a really good film to watch. But he's now in business, and he runs a multi-million-dollar business. And I think it's really cool to see somebody like that, that's successful, humbling himself to experience the purpose that God has for his life. He chose to go into marketing and business. That was his sweet spot. But he's like, okay, God could take this away at any time. My purpose is to be close to him and have union with him. And I hope that he continues to lead my business. I love what he's talking about here. He says, to me, I feel like I'm partnering with God to make something great happen. And it's something that's going to serve the world in some way. But it's up to me. He'll let it fail, which is kind of scary. It's up to you to partner with God, to let him lead that sweet spot. All right? Any questions so far? Or any thoughts? Need me to go back to anything? Just let me know. You can stop me at any time.
So, Chad, I feel like a lot of people struggle with the last line of that quote about he will let it fail, which is kind of scary. I think that that's one of those things that is really tough for everyone to wrap their brain around, that God's there for you and he will help you, but he also wants you to like you said, partner with him. And if you're not doing it the right way, even if your mission is a good one, sometimes God's going to let that fail. And sometimes that can be hurtful and it's hard to understand sometimes.
Definitely. That, and that brings up that our thoughts are not his thoughts, our ways are not his ways. Something we could consider as good and that we're doing we thought was the coolest project ever or the coolest career ever that is going to help people, he completely detours you. And you're like, why? You don't find out till later. That's why it's scary. Because we invest ourselves in things, and we've got to be okay being open-handed that God will take that away for something completely different that he wants to do in our life. Maybe that thing that you're doing is for somebody else to do at this time, and he's going to make a way for them to do it or be involved in partnering with him on that thing that you were involved in, and he's got to shift you. You know, it's weird. I don't know. But that's what I think. Based on his thoughts are not our thoughts and his ways are not our ways. He can shift what we're doing at any time. And I also think that this is saying, like, he could have a purpose in or he could have a mission for you at a season in life. And if you're not doing it, it can be taken away. Right? If we continue to say no to it, we've seen that through the scriptures as well. So it's being open-handed to what does God want to do? It's being, first and foremost, my mission is being in union with God. My purpose is being in union with God. And then I'm following him into this. I'm going to try and do my best to fulfill my sweet spot that we just went through. And whatever he says goes, though, ultimately. But yeah, I love this. And this is the podcast episode, if you want to go into that. It's a really good episode. Story brand with Donald Miller, why a bias toward action wins in the marketplace. So if you're interested in being involved in business and someone who loves God, wants to partner with God in business, I think this is a good podcast for people too. So if you did not draw this out yet, please go ahead and do so. This is a good practice. Edwin, have you been able to draw this out for yourself?
Yep.
Cool. This will be available later too. So, all right, let's move into the second P, and I won't spend too much time on it. Planning. The Halls, are you good to stay for a few more minutes or no? You won't hurt my feelings.
We've got a couple more minutes.
Okay, cool. Anything else before I go into planning? Purpose is a big thing. Taking a big swing. All right, so you got to know your purpose, but try to keep it as simple as possible. Union with God. Remember that above anything else. You got to have a plan as well. Planning is definitely a value that God gives us in the scriptures. And a lot of you guys, I think, are probably like that student that said, man, if I don't know what I'm doing by the time I'm in 8th grade, I'm lost, right? So people are freaking out about the college major they'll have, the workforce decision they have to make. And this is new to us. Before, if your dad was a fisherman or a farmer, guess what? You're a fisherman or a farmer. Like, we are overwhelmed in America with the choices. That's why that pamphlet gives you 8 top possible career choices for you. And that's too many. That's so many. So this is all new. But I want to keep it simple. You are not defined by your degree. You're not defined by the major that you choose. You don't know who you are in 8th grade, like I said earlier, right? We'll go into another podcast, couple of quotes. This is the Vox Podcast, and you've probably heard me talk about Sky Jatani before. This is him as a guest on that podcast with the title, A Theology of Vocation. That's work. That's what you are going to do for work. I love what he says on that podcast. Once you have that, your highest calling he's talking about, Once you have your highest calling functioning and you realize my identity, my significance, my value is all in him, then you can tolerate an awful lot of change in specific callings without losing your mind. All right? A lot of people are losing their mind right now. It's showing us that jobs, titles, degrees, these were things that were not so strong a foundation as we thought. So we have to have this as our highest calling. Again, union with God will help you have a plan for the rest of your life and be okay when things change up on you. He says on this podcast, and here it is, if you want to take a screenshot and you want to listen to this episode, he says, when someone comes to me and says, I don't know what to do with my life, my question is, do you know what you're supposed to do today? Do you know what God's calling is for you today? And I've never met anybody who says they don't know that. They do know that. They know what they're supposed to do toward their neighbor, the kindness and goodness and gentleness that they're called to. Doesn't that make every day so much simpler for you? Regardless if you're a barista or you're the CEO of the business you wanted to be. Right? Your success is dependent on the kindness and goodness and gentleness and being the person of faith, hope, and love we talked about. So you've got a plan to become that, and that kind of gives you a sigh of relief to not have to become this certain title. It's all about planning every day to display God's character. Jeremiah 9, this is what the Lord says. The wise person should not boast in his wisdom, his degree, his major, right? The strong should not boast in his strength. The wealthy should not boast in wealth. We're not boasting in titles or degrees. But, verse 24, the one who boasts should boast in this, that he understands and knows me, that I am the Lord, showing faithful love, justice, and righteousness on the earth, for I delight in these things. This is the Lord's declaration. This is the Lord's declaration. I know Noah really wants to be a firefighter, right? This scripture does not say,
Firefighter paramedic.
I am the Lord, and I want Noah to be a firefighter so bad. This is my declaration. No, he can be a firefighter, but God will delight. He will be pumped about you showing faithful love and justice and righteousness in whatever work you are trying to do, in that sweet spot we mentioned earlier. All right, let's bring it to a close. You didn't know this was coming. We've gone through 2 P's. We've got 3 more P's involved with the plan. 5 total P's. All right, you ready for this? Plan to be serving. In serving capacities, in mission, putting others first. Plan to be serving. Philippians 2:3, do nothing out of selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility consider others as more important than yourselves. Man, a lot of these leaders here would love to see you grow up in the next few years and become youth leaders like them and serve the young generation below you. That would be amazing. I'm sure a lot of you guys are in some kind of serving capacity, and when this whole thing hopefully is relieved, we'll have a lot more serving opportunities in the world. But when you are reaching your college age years, like, it's a whole new world, and you try to figure out, what am I passionate about? What do I want to get involved in? Think about it now. Think about it in middle school and high school. What are some cool things that in the next couple of years you think you'd love to be serving in? Not expecting any money, not expecting any what's the word? How am I supposed to say this? Reciprocity. You're not expecting anything to come back to you. You're just putting others first. You're trying to go to Kenya in the summer like Adam was supposed to go to this summer, right? Those kind of things are hopefully in your guys' futures. Plan to be serving. Plan to be in, number 2, community. Plan to be in a community of faith. These forms of planning are going to help you succeed in life. They're going to help you become the disciple of Jesus that will change the world. Romans 12:3 through 13, for by the grace given to me, I tell everyone among you, not to think of himself more highly than he should think. Instead, think sensibly as God has distributed a measure of faith to each one. Now, as we have many parts in one body, and all the parts do not have the same function, in the same way, we who are many are one body in Christ, and individually members of one another, according to the grace given to us. We have different gifts. Prophecy, use it according to the proportion of one's faith. If service, use it in service. If teaching, in teaching. If exhorting, in exhortation. Giving, with generosity. Leading, with diligence. Showing mercy, with cheerfulness. Let love be without hypocrisy. Detest evil. Cling to what is good. Love one another deeply as brothers and sisters. Take the lead in honoring one another. Do not lack diligence and zeal. Be fervent in the spirit. Serve the Lord. Rejoice in hope. Be patient in affliction. Be persistent in prayer. Share with the saints in their needs and pursue hospitality. Okay, sum it all up. Be in community, right? Be giving to one another. Be using your gifts to serve one another. Love one another. Pray for one another. My goodness, this is like a pep rally in here. Just get pumped to be in community with one another. And there are many new ways to do this once you hit your college age years. For example, Jillian Forbes graduated out of Students at Hope last year. She's going to Texas Tech, and immediately we got her connected up with Young Life there. All right? We were like, go there and get into community right in there. There's so many. My best friend works with Crew. Crew is also a campus ministry that's great and helps people connect to Jesus. CCO, Young Life, Navigators, H2O, and obviously you want to get into a local church because God created us to be a part of these bodies. All right, plan with your number 3, money and saving. Anybody got this down yet? Didn't think so.
Take the Dave Ramsey course.
Kind of.
You read my mind, Abby.
It was worth it.
Dave Ramsey's Complete Guide to Money was the first book I read this year. And if I read that at 16, I would be so well off right now. I would be in a great spot. All right. Scripture says in 1 Thessalonians 4, Paul says to seek to lead a quiet life, to mind your own business, and to work with your own hands as we commanded you, so that you may behave properly in the presence of outsiders and not be dependent on anybody. To not be a mooch, to be able to take care of yourself, to take care of your household, to be a great leader in the community, for outsiders to be like, wow, that person is really rocking a great life, and I don't know what's going on in there, because a lot of people are gonna be freaking out, especially at a time like this. And if we're able to display a quiet life that we have prepared for all of the craziness that can come our way, we can love people well. We can serve, we can be free, and we can have the money that takes care of ourselves and our community. My goodness, I mean, it was cool to see some people sometimes giving to their local stores and local restaurants. I can't open up my Instagram or anything without seeing people buying local restaurant tacos. You know, like everybody's all of a sudden coming together to help other people out, which is great, but we should be doing that all the time. Plan to be serving, plan to be in community, plan with money and saving. Like Abby said, the Dave Ramsey materials are great. Financial Peace University, there's ones for your age as well, called Foundations. Just Google Dave Ramsey and all these books will come up. All these courses will come up, and you'll be able to navigate through that and see if anything works for you right now. Complete Guide to Money, again, is the book I read. All right, and back to Romans 12:8, just to end here with that whole money saving idea. It says to be generous. If that is your gift, if you find, wow, I can make money, I want to give it back. Donald Miller's story is 5 or 6 years ago. He lost everything. He started a business after being an author and got into, I guess, it was a bad time of the world. I think that would have been the 2008 time when we had a recession there. And he lost everything. And now, going through these principles, plan to be serving, plan to be in community, plan to be, plan with your money and saving. He's giving the amount that he lost back then every year away. Like, that's where we want to get to if your gift is giving and being generous. So again, it can feel overwhelming to stay disciplined and grow into a world-changing disciple of Jesus after high school. And I think that's a big reason we see so many 18-year-olds, 18 and up, giving up on the Christian life. And Jesus invites us to level up and follow him at every stage, never to make him a category, but it's going to require knowing our purpose and having a plan.
Back to the 3-circle thing. I didn't quite get, because I was writing notes down. What was the mission circle for again?
Yeah, so when you write down your gifts and you write down your story or your experience, that should help you get an idea about what you've been passionate about and get creative about how to get involved in a mission, right? So for instance, here's an example. There was a guy who was an Olympian runner, okay, winning Olympic medals, had a freak accident, started going completely into a spiral of depression, no purpose, ends up working at like a Foot Locker or a shoe store or something, okay? And so he's like, whoa, I used to be an Olympian runner, now I'm selling shoes to little children. Like, it was a wild turn for his life. Ends up converting all that energy and that competitive spirit, because that's who he was. Those are the gifts and experience he had, into jiu-jitsu, mixed martial arts, and defense. Ends up becoming a black belt. And the store keeps him on board to not only be a shoe salesman, but to start teaching classes to the community, because they were near a college campus, starting to teach self-defense classes, because that's what he became passionate about, to young men and women who were runners on college campus and were fearful that they would be assaulted at night if they were running. And so he creatively, through that process of the Venn diagram I showed, discovered this is what I want to end up doing. And God bless that for sure. Trying to think of what we had last week. Let me see if I can pull up our list and we'll close up here. Oh yeah, this is what I wanted to share. So at least 2 of you last week said, when we asked, hey, what would you like to talk about in the coming weeks on here? 2 of you said, like, how can I talk to people my age about following Jesus? Well, tell some people to just join you here. Like, this is obviously, it wasn't easy tonight, but I'll fix it for the future. But in the future, send the link out to a friend and be like, hey, just come check this out and we'll talk about it afterward. That's kind of a cheat code. Multiple of you were like, how do I talk to people about Jesus? Well, invite them in, because this isn't really like a church service. This is a conversation place. This is a TED Talk where you all can talk with us. It's a workshop. Let me pull that up again. Why you should be a Christian was another one. How social media could be affecting our lives. And how to steward your money in a new world. So we could go deeper into money eventually too. I didn't touch it a lot today. Last week though, I told you guys that we're here to come with some ideas for other topics you want to talk about. So did you think of any? And if you are here for the first time today, you can also share. Is there any topic other than those that you'd like us to add?
I thought of 3 while we were kind of, while you just brought it up. I think the 3, like planning the plan to be serving community and money/saving. I think having like a session on just one of those 3 different sessions or whatever, diving deeper into serving and then community and money and saving, as someone already recommended.
Oh, dude, I love that. Cool. Added.
Hey, Chad, this one's more for like next level stuff, but how to read this guy, how to study this guy, the Bible. I think a lot of people don't necessarily take the time or the attention it deserves.
Definitely. I actually wanted Kayla to do that this month, but she's doing finals for her college this month. So I don't know if it's going to be the right time. I think it'd be cool to do a 2-part with her, and then I'll do one too, because that it'll take a while. It'd be cool to have multiple people's perspectives on how they study. Got that one in. Thanks, Adam. All right, guys, make sure to hit me up if you have an idea. If you didn't want to share in here, that's totally cool. Cool. We're back on next week. Next week is going to be about simplicity. So the discipline of, it kind of goes off of hurry and into simplicity next week. So let's do that. Make it simple for Michaela so she doesn't have to get up so early. So tell your people again, many of you, or I mean, not many, but multiple of you said, hey, how do I tell people about Jesus or get the conversation going? Send the link out. I'd love to see some new people in here. I don't mind it. We want to joke around. We want to grow a community here. Yeah, so we'll see you later, guys. Next time, 7 p.m. next week. Much love.
Bye.
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 Bye, guys. Love you.
Bye.